Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is not the main event. This is the Summer Sidecard, episode 2, Electric Boogaloo. Ryan Baldwin here with the one and only Mason Shepard out in Texarkana, as I'm still back home in Denton, right next to campus. So I'm in the green studio in spirit.
And, you can reach out and grab it.
Just right over there, that way. So yesterday, game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Celtics and the Warriors. Last week when we talked, the Warriors were already in, and we thought it would be the Celtics, and sure enough, here we are. And then I don't think anybody expected the turnaround there, though, in the fourth quarter from the Celtics. I thought they were down and out. I was like, okay, fourth quarter, Warriors, I think they got this one. But
yeah, I think this was the most impressive thing about last night's game. I think, because it started out like we see every Warriors game when it comes to the finals start out. Teams are feeling each other out, and the Warriors are like, okay, we felt them out for about 5 minutes. Let's open our offense and start raining down threes. And that's what they were doing. Steph Curry proved once again why he is the babyface assassin, why he is the greatest three-point shooter of all time. And so it was just going on and on because the Warriors they got into the Celtics' heads, and the Celtics were like, okay, we guard the three-point line. He won't be able to shoot. And he proved, okay, I'll just step a few more feet back and put it up, and then it goes in anyway. And you can't play off of Steph Curry. I don't care where he is, whether he's at the three-point line, mid-range free throw line, or under the goal, you can't play off of him. So, the Celtics were getting beat down early, and they were trying to play the Warriors game, which every team tries to do. It's like, okay, to keep up with them, we got to put up threes too. Oh wait, Brick. Okay. Oh wait, like Jason Tatum looked horrible those first two quarters, and you can't play the Warriors game. I know everybody wants to, and Steph and Clay, they've changed how the game is played in terms of if you can't hit a 3-point shot, what are you doing with your life? But you can't play the Warriors game. I'm sorry. But then, the Celtics, I think what we saw, which is giving people a lot of hope for the finals, so we don't just get another Warrior winning streak, is that the Celtics showed grit and resolve. They weren't just going to, like you said, everybody was probably like, okay, the Warriors are up, it's third quarter going in the fourth. We can probably turn away and watch something else, or just, sit here and watch the Warriors win game 1. And the Celtics came back, and not only did they win game 1, they won it double digits, 120, what was it, 108?
120, 108. But yeah, they're the first team in NBA Finals history to be down by double digits entering the fourth and then win by double digits at the end of the game. So I think it was combination, of Celtics, because Al Horford's not going to go off again, from three like that, right? You probably aren't going to see White go off for 21 points again. He might, because he's a good role player. But
I think it would be safer to say we won't see him go for 21 points in that way again.
Right. But we might see him go for 10 or 15. But the other thing is you're probably not going to see Jason Tatum go for just 12 again.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the Warriors are going to have an issue, because ever since Clay came back from his injury, his torn ACL, where he's out for over a season, he's not the same guy. He'll give you 20, but he's not going to give you 30 or 40 anymore. He's not he's not the Curry 2.0 for you to count on. Andrew Wiggins will put up 20 occasionally, 50 and 20, solid player. But that means you need Jordan Poole to put up more than 9. And the one thing that you can't have, which I can't believe Coach Kerr didn't stop him and say, well, why are you doing this? Draymond Green shot the ball 12 times.
Yes.
He went 2 for 12, 0 for 4 from 3-point line, 0 for 3 from the free throw line. He played good defense, 11 rebounds and 5 assists, 2 steals. But
what we expect from him, the defensive aspect.
I can't have Draymond shooting 12 times when Thompson shoots 14 and Jordan Poole shot 7. I just can't. I can't have it if I'm a Warriors fan.
No, not at all. And I think that's the thing is, I was watching with my parents, and my dad and I were like, oh yeah, we'll let Draymond shoot all day.
Yeah.
He won't make anything.
I would rather have Curry shoot a fall away 3-pointer with 2 hands in his face
Yeah.
than have Draymond Green on the regular shoot a 3. He's
And
just not.
I think the interesting thing about that, that process or an analogy is that we've seen Curry do that already.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in the game, it weren't 2 hands in his face, but there was a pick set against Marcus Smart, and I think it was going into halftime. There was a pick set against Marcus Smart in the second quarter, and so Curry's coming off that edge, and so Smart gets picked, but he's still reaching out, and then Al Horford gets in Steph's face, but he's not too close, and Steph just puts one up, and it just swish right in there.
Yeah.
So you can give Steph that. Draymond wide open, no.
Right.
So I think it's one of those things where, it was game one, and I think, and I kind of get the flavor of what you're saying. I can taste what you're saying, Ryan. I think what you're alluding to is, the Celtics got this one. Don't expect the Warriors to make those same mistakes again. And you're right.
Not even that. I think it's more just, this series may just come down to who gets hot at what point in the game. I think especially like 15, 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. Let's call it mid-90s. A 20-point lead was not guaranteed, but it was a lot safer than a 20-point lead now. Because all it takes, especially against a team like the Warriors and even a team like the Celtics, they put up, I think they hit 8 or 9 threes in the fourth quarter alone.
Yeah, but I think
that's 27 points right there.
Yeah, but see that's what it is. You just said it, and I alluded to it earlier. It's the fact that back then, mid-90s, 3-point shooters, Kerr, Reggie Allen, with Miller, not Allen, Reggie Miller, you had your Steve Kerr, but there was not a team that was like, okay, we have to play their game, or there's a team that's just 3-pointers all day. Now, 20 points is nothing because, like you said, you hit a 3, that's 3. You hit another 3, you hit 2 threes, that's 6, 9, 12, all this stuff. And
all the analytics point to shooting 40% from the 3 is better than shooting 50% from 2.
Yeah, especially, and I don't think those analytics would hold up in the sense, when I mean hold up, I don't think those would be applied in the mid-90s times of playing basketball, because it was not built around the 3-point shot back then.
Well, and there's a lot less people shooting 40% from the 3 too back then.
Exactly. Yeah. That's where, and this is my favorite style of basketball, that's where you had your slashers, the people who got inside. They would go from mid-range. People were hitting threes, yes, but you had more people who, I think what you could say is, and this isn't a shot, it's weird how basketball's kind of evolved and devolved at the same time. And what I mean is, the players of basketball have all evolved. Like, it doesn't matter if you're 7 feet and 250 pounds. If you can't shoot a 3, don't. But, we would kind of want you to. Back then, but the game is one-dimensional. Back then, it wasn't. Back then, you had to be able to do any and everything, not as a player, but as a team. Nowadays, teams are like, okay, we are a 3-point shooting team. We're a slashing team. We're a defensive team, which there are not many of, those. But it's crazy how the game is one-dimensional with the players evolving versus a game that's, every person plays a part, but it's kind of like, no, there is no 3 shooting team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at like the 90s Bulls, everybody had their role, right? Obviously, Jordan was a star, but Rodman was a rebounder, and he was an inside scorer. If he got a post-up opportunity, he'd score. But he was not. Nobody was expecting Rodman to be doing flashy passes and making good passes and distributing the basketball. He was a rebounder and a pretty good inside scorer.
Yeah.
Pippen was the facilitator more so, and Jordan was a slasher. He could dish, but he could finish. Kerr was like the outside specialist, and so everybody in their team had that role. And now, like, when you look at teams now, a lot of the times it's just you got to be able to score at least a little.
Yeah. And I think
unless you're a Marcus Smart or a Draymond Green type player where you can just play defense and rebound, because you still need that. But I mean, like if you look at the Warriors starting lineup yesterday, it was Clay, Curry, Looney, Wiggins, and Green. Wiggins is expected to score a little bit. Curry expected to score
yeah,
a lot. Thompson expected to score a lot. And Looney is kind of a rebounder, but also expected to score inside. So you have four guys whose job is score buckets. And then the first guy off the bench, Jordan Poole, also expected to score buckets.
yeah, and I think I think that's the interesting thing about basketball as a whole now is that, and we've said this before, back in Denton, we talked about how when it comes to basketball, there is a lot less room to be, a defensive specialist in the sense of it's not the stuff that people are going to pay attention to. It matters, but no one's going to pay attention to that. And really, no one really kind of game plans for that until it's brought up to this stage, like in the sense of like the finals where, hey, there's a defensive specialist here. We got to find a way to get around that. During the regular season, it's kind of looked over. It's like, yeah, there's the defensive specialist. He's not expected to score. We don't worry about it. Like you said, now it's all about, okay, point guard, because you can't tell me nowadays that when you're a point guard, you can, but I just feel like when you're a point guard in today's time period, you're either scorer number one or scorer number two.
Yeah.
You are not there. There is no more John Stockton. I'm not the scorer. I'm just gonna, facilitate it. You have your Lonzo. You even have Chris Paul when he was starting out. You have people who do more facilitating than most, but at the same time, Lonzo is still expected to go out and at least put up 15.
Yeah.
Back then, point guards could maybe go 10 or maybe 12, but have at least 13 assists or whatever. Now it's like, okay, as a point guard, you have to be our at least number one or number two scorer, and you have to be the facilitator. And it's crazy.
Well, I don't even know if point guards have to be the facilitator anymore, right? Like you see a lot of teams, like I wouldn't call Luka a point guard. I would say he's more of a shooting guard, but he's the one handling the ball most of the time. Same thing with LeBron. Same thing with maybe Giannis is handling it a lot. But now you have basically your best player a lot of the times is the one that's dribbling the ball up court and looking to start plays off. Whereas back in the day, that used to be the point guard's thing.
Whether he was good or not. Yeah. And we have moved into the era of the NBA where it's score first, ask questions later.
Yep.
There is no more of a score, play defense, rebound, whatever. It's crazy. If you put a Dennis Rodman, not the flashiness, because obviously that would stand out, but if you put Dennis Rodman's skill set in today's NBA, I don't think that many people talk about him unless they get to the finals.
I mean, he'd be basically Rudy Gobert, right? I mean, that's basically what you're looking at right now is maybe the closest present day. I would say Rodman was maybe a little bit better of a score. A different era, it's hard to tell whether he would still. But yeah, I think that's the closest thing you're looking to in terms of skill set would be Rudy Gobert. And people saw that, in the Maverick series, he got abused because he couldn't guard the perimeter. Now, I will say Rodman could guard the perimeter a little bit better, but it's going to be hard against these players. He was not guarding people like Brunson and Luka and Curry on the perimeter back in his days. Those guys just didn't exist. So,
and plus, I think we're dealing with someone who, what was Rodman, 6'8" ish? I don't know how tall he was, but Gobert is over 7 feet. So the perimeter.
Rodman was 6'7", yeah.
Yeah, 6'7", around that. Yeah, Rudy Gobert is over 7 feet tall. So there's also the size disparity in that you don't want or need your 7-footer on the perimeter. You just don't. It doesn't help anybody with him out there.
Well, game 2 tomorrow, still at home, but the Golden State Warriors have already lost home court advantage with that loss to the Celtics. I think this one could go 7. I would not be surprised if it goes 7.
We saw how it was with the Heat, or were the Celtics leading that one? Weren't the Celtics leading and the Heat came back? Yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
But still, I think this is what I would think the strategy for Boston needs to be. Because I want the Celtics to win. They have a black coach for one, and I also don't want the Warriors winning another one. And it's a good young team who, and I said this at Sports Zone, and I'm saying this now, the Celtics need this more than anybody, because this is a team when Kyrie was there. The Celtics need to win, not because they come from a franchise losing. If we're being honest, the Celtics are the most winningest franchise in history in sports. So it's not that they need it for franchise sake, but for a team that was rebuilding for a long time, and for a team that has phenomenal talent across the board. If they don't win it now, we don't know what could happen next season.
Well, I think
So,
I was listening to the broadcast, and something that was pointed out was, the nice thing about the Warriors and the Celtics, all these players were drafted by him. So they had the first opportunity to lock them up. And you see a lot of the teams now are kind of like, a lot of them buy players and then they come in on a 1-year contract and then they get shipped back off and then they're done. But the fact that the Warriors and the Celtics drafted these players gives them the opportunity to come back again and again and again.
And again. Don't forget again.
And again. It could be that we have a Celtics Warriors version of the Celtics Lakers rivalry from back then, based on, Curry's getting older. I don't know how long they'll be able to stay in the game, but we'll see how that progresses.
I guarantee you teams will be glad when Steph decides to hang it up.
Yes, that'll make defending the Warriors a lot easier.
Yep.
So over the week, I know we're still pretty far away from the NFL start of the season, but there were a couple of retirements and departures in the league that I thought were noteworthy. First of all, of course, former Dallas Cowboys running back Marion Barber passed away by unknown causes. And I don't know how much you got to watch of him or remember of him, but this man was a runner he was the type of runner that was exciting to watch, because he was the same type of runner that Marshawn Lynch was. He was a ground and pound, and he was going to run you over if he could. Strong, never gave up on the play, and it was cool to see somebody like that in a Cowboys uniform. I know he was my middle brother's favorite player for a long time. He had the jersey and everything. Sad day for the Cowboys for us when they traded him away, and very sad to hear of his passing. And our thoughts and prayers obviously go out to the Barber family, because
you 38
hate to see,
years old, man.
Yeah, that's far too young. Retirements in the NFL. Frank Gore.
For me, like you talked about having a connection with Marion Barber. I personally didn't. What era did he play in? Because he's 38 years old.
He was like the mid thousands. I think he was the mid. He was the mid 2000s. He was drafted by the Cowboys in the 4th round of 2005. So mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, I for some reason can't remember him playing, but I remember the name and the jersey. Okay, again, condolences to his family, of course. For me, with Frank Gore, growing up, that was one of the running backs that, now growing up, my favorite running back was never, I'm never going to say it was ever Frank Gore, but at the same time, I always admired how tough the guy looked. I mean, the guy looks like a Ninja Turtle when he takes his helmet off, but he is undoubtedly one of the toughest running backs, really one of the toughest players I've ever seen in my 20 years of being alive. And I think what sets Frank, if there's one word you can say about Frank Gore, despite he never won a Super Bowl, the reason he will be in the Hall of Fame, besides very good numbers, consistency. There was not a season he was involved in where you can say, man, Frank Gore, he's showing his age right now. He played consistent for 17 years? Maybe 18, 19?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years.
16. For the 16 years he was playing, you never had, Frank Gore's just not turning it up. I'm not saying he was a Derrick Henry level star towards the end of his career, but you knew who Frank Gore was, and you didn't take him lightly. And I think that was something that really impressed me. So good for him. He will be a Hall of Famer. Maybe not first ballot, but he'll definitely be there. He is a legend in my book.
I think he will eventually. He's the 3rd overall leading rusher in NFL history. He is the all-time leading rusher for San Francisco and
Yep.
all-time leader in touchdowns, and second behind Jerry Rice in all yards from scrimmage. I think by most metrics, he made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pro Bowls. Yeah, I think by most metrics, he would probably be up there. Yeah, not a first ballot, but
No, you know what? When it comes to the NFL Hall of Fame, I would like, especially the sports writers who have no business inducting these people. I would evaluate it like this: How would you feel? How would you feel as a person, Ryan Baldwin, if someone told you at the age you comprehend, let's say 13 years old, if someone told you that you were going to be the NFL's third all-time leading rusher, and you were going to play for a franchise where you would be the leader in rushing touchdowns, and you would be second behind a Hall of Fame receiver in yards from scrimmage, and you would make 5 Pro Bowls in your career, would you feel like you had a Hall of Fame career?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Exactly. First ballot or not, that's indiscriminable. When we see him doing documentaries or helping young players, the caption should read, the lower third, thank you, UNT, for that education, should read NFL Hall of Famer Frank Gore, because he deserves it, in my opinion.
I think so, too. But, yeah, good for Frank Gore. He signed a one-day contract to retire as a 49er, the team that drafted him, the team that he was on for a long time. So he gets to ride out into the sunset as a member of the 49ers. Also, just like 16 seasons is a long time for a running back. That is a long, long time for a running back.
Takes care of his body, man.
Another pretty big one was the best backup quarterback in NFL history. Ryan Fitzpatrick has retired.
You mean Ryan Fitztragic?
Ryan Fitzmagic.
Fitztragic.
Depending on it's Fitztragic when he started and Fitzmagic when he came off the bench, which is one of like the most baffling things to watch about him. Was he just when he started, he looked completely different than when he would come off the bench and all of a sudden take a team like on a 6-game win streak after the starter gets injured. I'm sitting there going, "What? How does he do this?"
I have a disgruntled relationship with Ryan Fitztragic. Because here's the thing. I'm not going to take away from the fact that the guy's made a heck of a lot of money and played 17 seasons. That's an accomplishment within itself. But Ryan Fitztragic is one of those quarterbacks that, I will never put, now I can say this, I will never put anybody in Jay Cutler territory as far as being lazy, because that guy's in a league of his own of being lazy. But I think for Fitztragic, it's one of those things where he could get hot sometimes, but then at the same time, in the same breath, he just, what is this guy doing? Why is he there? And, but hey, being a backup quarterback is the smartest position to be in football, because you don't have to hardly get hurt unless the starter goes down, and you get paid. So
I think some people just have that mentality or that makeup, right? Like Jason Terry was like the best sixth man the Mavericks, over a course of a career. Jason Terry was the best sixth man that the Mavericks have had. But he never started because he always was that guy that came off the bench, provided spark off the bench. He knew that. He was fine with that. He understood his role, and he played better when he came off the bench. And I think there's just those guys that have that mentality, and it's a different mindset. And that mindset just makes them play better when they're coming off the bench. Maybe it's a lack of expectations, right? The expectations are different when you're the backup versus when you're the starter. So maybe it's that lack of stress and expectations that makes these kinds of players play better. But yes, so long, Ryan Fitzpatrick, best backup quarterback in NFL history. And then
Fitztragic.
A pretty major defensive back retired as well. Malcolm Jenkins retired after a lengthy career. And he was, now I'm not saying he's Darrelle Revis or
he looks a little like Revis, which is hilarious.
He's not Darrelle Revis or Troy Polamalu or Ed Reed levels of good.
No.
But he had a lengthy 13-year career, a 3-time Pro Bowler. And
he a Super Bowl champion? He was with the Eagles when they went on their Super Bowl run.
two-time Super Bowl champion, actually. Yeah, he won the Super Bowl with I believe the Eagles and I think the Saints way back when.
Oh yeah. When the Saints played the Colts in 2010, I want to say.
Yeah. So let's see. Three-time Pro Bowler, 22nd all-time in interceptions, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
He has he's got he's tied for the longest interception return in NFL history at 99 yards. Ninth, or no, he's fourth among active players in solo tackles, 33 in his active tackle or solo tackles for the career. So a solid player. I don't know about Hall of Famer.
No,
but
I don't
just
think.
one of those players that, at least for our generation, he's one of those defensive backs that was always there, really good player, and you heard his name called a lot. And so,
it's like what we just talked about with Frank Gore, consistency.
Yeah.
He was a very consistent guy. Not a Hall of Famer, but I do think, I will say this. We talk about that lower third. Again, shout out UNT, that lower third. If ever does interview, it will say NFL legend Malcolm Jenkins.
Mhm.
So, won't be a Hall of Famer, but I think it'll be he. But I mean, again, and this is, I think, how I want to evaluate it, just based on, the proper perspective. Because we even talked about, people who have never played a down of football or bounced a basketball professionally in their lives want to talk about people's careers or whatever, because we do it, as sports people and sports lovers.
Totally.
Of course. If someone were to tell me all those things that you just named off about Malcolm Jenkins for my career, I'd be like, wow, I did pretty well for myself.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, or a lot of people, go, well, he only had 2 Pro Bowls out of 13 years, and they don't realize, especially, I think other Hall of Fames, like the NBA Hall of Fame, I think is just now inducting people like constantly, right? And maybe that's because there's less people overall to pick from. So when more people get in, the percentage of Hall of Famers, percentage of player, I'd have to take a look. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but I feel like the percentage of players in the NBA that are Hall of Famers versus overall is much bigger than the percentage of Hall of Famers for the NFL versus overall. Bigger rosters, more players on the field, and they only take like 5 a year. Maybe the MLB, I'd have to take a look, because I know the NFL now always takes like 5. The MLB this past round only got 1 in on their Hall of Fame. So,
I think even with the NBA, I don't even think they have an official, last time I checked, because there's like a basketball, just overall basketball Hall of Fame. Because again, the point I go to with that is, and I got nothing but love for him, but Tracy McGrady is a Hall of Famer. And
yeah, they inducted 13 members for the class of 2022, which includes coaches and some like WNBA and like a couple of NCAA people. So it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, but still 13
that's
members.
What I'm saying. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. And you're right. The reason why, but okay, even someone like, and I use him as the example because, again, I'm not hating on him. I was a huge Trace McGrady fan, again, for obvious reasons. But would you say he had a Hall of Fame career? No. But, he's in there anyway.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't hurt that he's Vince Carter's cousin. So,
right. But nobody would argue that Tracy McGrady had a good career.
No,
but I think people would argue that he's a Hall of Fame. It's the same thing with Malcolm Jenkins. I don't think anybody would argue that Malcolm Jenkins had a good career. Hall of Fame career? No. Just not compared to safeties that have played and were playing in his era. And and I say his era, I mean that's like 13 years ago. But 13 years ago, you still had guys like Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu playing, and they were unequivocally better than Malcolm Jenkins over the course of the career.
Yes, and you can even go back a little further. You had Bob Sanders with Colts, and you just and see that's the thing, and that's why they're a good parallel. If Malcolm Jenkins was a basketball player, he'd be in the Hall of Fame, no question, for the Basketball Hall of Fame, no question. But he's not. He's a football player, so he'll be an NFL legend. He won't be a Hall of Famer. And I think that's one of those things where it comes down to where with the NFL, they don't. I mean, it's fair just not to, because we've had this conversation. They don't just go by accolades. What really drives home, this is why Frank Gore's going in. What really drives home being in the NFL Hall of Fame is your numbers. It's not just how many Super Bowls you win, because you could win about 6 Super Bowls, but if you were the offensive lineman and no one remembers you, you're not going anywhere. But
I think lineman is actually the exception, because I think a lot of people would look at lineman and be like, oh, he was the left tackle for a 6-time Super Bowl champion. And like, there's not really any other metrics that people keep up with, right? For the average person.
Maybe not fullback. There we go.
Maybe
not lineman, but fullback. If you're the fullback on a team that won 6 Super Bowls, you have 6 rings, but no one remembers you. Your numbers aren't even existent, so no. But when it's equivalent to, like a lineman, as you said, or a quarterback or a running back, 6 Super Bowls, that's great. What are also the numbers? And I think, one of the most important things when it comes to evaluating NFL players is, I think, that perspective. And I like how we did it here. We need to do that for the future, where we look and go, okay, if someone were to tell me that I was going to have this, amount of numbers or whatever, then sure, I will definitely, say I'm a Hall of Famer. If not, I won't. And I think it's one of those things where we can get, perfect example, Andre Johnson in this case, because Andre Johnson was a fantastic wide receiver. He was great. I know he was for me growing up watching him. He was one of the main ones it was him, Larry Fitzgerald, Hines Ward, my cousin Calvin Johnson, Reggie Wayne, who still deserves to be in there. I don't know what's taking him so long.
He got close on the last one. He'll get there.
Yeah. So it's things like that. But Andre's numbers aren't level-wise.
LeGarrette Blount is a 3-time Super Bowl champion with the Patriots.
Yeah.
No chance that he's going into the Hall of Fame. He's a pretty good running back. Pretty good. But he's 58th over in career rushing TDs, 82nd in career rushing yards, but he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. So he's the opposite of what you're saying, where these guys had good stats, never won a Super Bowl. He won 3 Super Bowls. Stats are not there. He's not going to make it in. There's no chance. So I think you are right on with something there.
Yeah. So, but congratulations to if you're able at this stage in the game, if you're able to retire from the NFL and you have no really existing injuries that are going to inhibit you from living your life, down the road, more power to you. Got nothing negative to say about that.
All right. Well, that'll do it for the Summer Sidecard episode 2. Thanks for tuning in. Episode 1 is already up